The man formerly known as Prince Andrew in the spotlight again after the release of 3 million Epstein files.
Prince Andrew on all fours leaning over a clothed woman. This just does even more damage to his reputation.
There is an awful lot to go through. What else is to come?
It's uncomfortable questions for the former prince.
They knew that they were inviting to a party someone who had been convicted of sex offences.
Plus, Sarah Ferguson's secret messages are revealed.
She says, "I am at your service, just marry me."
It says, "You've disappeared. I did not even know you were having a baby."
Hello and welcome to a special extra episode of Talking Royals this week. I'm Charlene White and I've got Chris and Lizzie with me. Now, the reason why we're doing this extra episode is we had, 3 million documents released from the Jeffrey Epstein files.
Yes.
And we just thought we'd do
through all 3 million.
Well, we didn't go through all 3 million.
We are going to.
But there was a lot to go through. And day by day, there have been so many more revelations from those documents. So we thought we'd do a bit of an extra episode to catch people up, really. Let's talk about the man previously known as Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. There were quite a few pictures, files, or what have you. Talk us through it, Chris.
I mean, it's difficult to know where to start. I mean, there has been so much that's come out over the weekend, both concerning Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, as we now call him, as well as Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, and we'll get to all of those. So, but lots of emails and bits have been coming out through the weekend because obviously no one can search through 3 million emails in an hour. Let's start off with the photos, though, because I think this is what probably I think most people will remember from this past weekend. 3 photos, in fact, of a man who looks remarkably like Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, then of course Prince Andrew on all fours leaning over a clothed woman or we don't know her identity on the floor, and a couple of them he's sort of touching her waist or her stomach. The trouble with this document dump, if we call it, is you never get any context. You never get a sort of, this was then in that year, and these people in the photo is X, Y, and Z. You literally just get the photo or you get an email without the reply. It's very difficult to work out where it is or what it was or what was happening.
Or what it's connected to.
What it's connected to.
Yeah.
And yet, anything, the trouble is, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is a very damaged person reputationally, and this just does, if it's possible, even more damage to his reputation by having, these photos and these emails out there in the way that they have been the last couple of days.
I feel like this is a really good point at which we will reiterate, as we do every single time on this programme. Andrew has strenuously denied any wrongdoing and reminded that being named or pictured in these files is not an indication of wrongdoing.
Yes.
But
never convicted of anything in a court of law. He settled with his accuser, the late Virginia Giuffre, without ever admitting any liability. And yet you have to say reputationally, all of that association.
Yeah, because we're not
as the king himself said, an error of judgment.
But we're not talking about just one picture of him crouched over an unnamed individual, an unnamed woman. Lizzie, there's much more than that.
There is. And, when you search through the documents, his name comes up. If you search for Duke of York, Prince Andrew, and this alias that he allegedly used, the Invisible Man. And when you search through, you find photographs, but there are also a lot of emails of correspondence between Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Jeffrey Epstein, we believe. We think these are contact between the two of them. There's one in August 2010 where Jeffrey Epstein says to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor that he has a friend who I think you might enjoy having dinner with. Andrew replies for wanting some details about who this friend is. It's a 26-year-old woman, a Russian, clever and beautiful, Jeffrey says to Andrew. There's some emails in September 2010 where Andrew says to Jeffrey Epstein that he is free from 4 p.m. on one day after he's had lunch with a Saudi prince. And he said, "I'd be delighted for you to come here to Buckingham Palace, come with whomever, and I'll be here free from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And there are other references to Buckingham Palace and invitations to Buckingham Palace that we find throughout the email correspondence between the two of them.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of this, what people have hooked on a lot during going through all of these, as many of these emails as is possible, is that he was invited to Andrew's 50th birthday, which we were aware of. But of course, this is after Jeffrey Epstein had served time. And that's what the issue with a lot of these emails is the correspondence is going after that event.
And those emails that I've just referred to, those were emails after Jeffrey Epstein had pled guilty in 2008 and had served his sentence, including that invitation you mentioned to the 50th birthday, which was in February 2010.
They knew that they were inviting to a party someone who had been convicted of sex offences. That's the bare truth here is that. Lizzie was saying, Jeffrey Epstein convicted of soliciting a minor in 2008. He was sentenced to 18 months. He served 13 of them. And I think the last year was spent under house arrest. So really anything after 2008 or 2010, as a lot of these emails are, the communications are with a person who has been convicted of a sex offence.
And if we're looking at that date, we have emails here. There's one here, August 2009. And this is an email from Sarah Ferguson, who has thanked Jeffrey Epstein for being the brother I have always wished for, and that she has never been more touched by friends' kindness. That was via email, and that is August 2009. And as you said before, Lizzie, this is after he was convicted.
Yeah, and she appears, by looking at the email, to be thanking him for his help setting up various business opportunities for her. She talks about a lunch and then how opportunities then began to come. There's another email from her in January 2010. It appears to be from her to Jeffrey Epstein, describing him as a legend. She says, "I am at your service, just marry me."
I mean, what do you add? I mean, I've got that email here, and it just really, 2010. It's written in the American way, of course. 1/30/2010, so the 30th of January, 2010. I just don't know how to describe my love, gratitude for your generosity and kindness. She is really, really effusive about how much support he has given her. And as Lizzie was saying, a lot of it was about him giving her some help with her business opportunities, books, clothing, fragrances, and all those sort of things. It's really interesting. I mean, look, as far as I know, Jeffrey Epstein, as far as the world knows, Jeffrey Epstein doesn't have any children, correct? Mm-hmm. And yet we've now got an email from somebody who signs off Sarah. Again, we don't know for sure whether this is the Duchess of York, as she was then. I don't know if you're still on this BBM, BlackBerry Messenger service.
Yes.
Remember those?
Yes, remember.
But I've heard from the Duke that you have had a baby boy. I mean... even though you never kept in touch, I'm still here with love, friendship, and congratulations on your baby boy, Sarah. Now, this was sent at 6:18 in the morning, right? Quite early in the morning. Get up, fire off an email on the 21st of September, 2011. Now, there's another email 8 minutes later. 8 minutes later at 6:26 a.m. on the same date. And it says, "You've disappeared. I did not even know you were having a baby. It was so crystal clear to me that you were only friends with me to get to Andrew. And that really hurt me deeply, more than you will know."
And what date was that?
I mean, in the space of eight minutes, that Sarah is writing him saying, "Oh, wonderful news about your baby." 8 minutes later saying, you were using me to get to Andrew.
But he Sarah Ferguson has also given statements before, hasn't she, regarding how she feels about her interaction?
Yes. Yeah.
And what was the last statement?
Like a lot of people, Sarah Ferguson has said previously that she regrets falling for his lies. She totally condemns anything to do with sexual exploitation of anyone, of paedophilia, etc. And she never resiles from any of those comments. Although she has said previously that she felt, that she was pressurized into making these statements, these public statements condemning Jeffrey Epstein. And, spokespeople have later said that, she was a bit worried for her safety because he's a very powerful man.
And Beatrice and Eugenie have also been dragged into these emails, haven't they?
They have. There appear to be Christmas messages, sort of those online type Christmas cards sent to Jeffrey Epstein in 2011 and 2012, and both of those contain images of the whole family, including Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice. There is also an email from Sarah Ferguson talking about Princess Eugenie's love life as well.
And this was around the time, again, we won't go into detail of what this Sarah person wrote in this email, but this was around the time that Eugenie had met her current husband, Jack
Right.
Brooksbank, and they had met and they were going away for a weekend. And this Sarah person was talking to Jeffrey Epstein about that weekend in,
So were
intimate ways.
Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Sarah Ferguson, would they have known from the start when Congress started going through this raft of emails from Jeffrey Epstein? Did they know that this stuff was eventually going to come out? Or would you assume that they would know that emails which they may have thought at the time would remain private were then going to become public?
I think the palace suspected that it would. I mean, I've given up trying to read what's going on in the former Prince Andrew's mind. In fact, just today he was seen out on horseback riding around Windsor. Now, I don't know about you, Charlene, but if you or anyone else were in the press for any reason, be it positive or negative, and you just wanted to stay away from the cameras, would you choose to go riding? Okay, I know Windsor's a private land, but you do have to go past a point where photographers are known to stand, where he saw them from a distance.
And one could assume today they would be there.
Yeah.
You kind of think, you might just want to stay in your house on a day like today. And I think it just says something about what, a lot of people have said about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is his arrogance. And the fact he was going horse riding today, so I'm jolly well going to go and do it. And yet, so there he was, cloppeting past the cameras on a day when there are further questions about his errors of judgment. And to be fair, that's what the king called them. The king called them errors of judgment when he stripped Andrew of his prince title, his duke title and everything else. And now I was listening to the radio last night and there's people saying, well, what more can we do? We got rid of the house, the duke title, the prince title, what's left? And they were talking about, well, isn't there a way we can get rid of his sort of claim on the throne? Because he's still 8th in line to the throne. Can we get rid of his hereditariness somewhere?
But talking to the king, but where does this leave him? Because he's made all of these changes.
Where does it leave the king?
Yeah, but I mean, like in terms of even, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor going out on his horse today, when actually for the royal family as a whole, it perhaps would on a PR level have been better for him to stay inside today.
Yeah, and the royal family are so keen that the focus is on the work that they do and the good work that they do. And I think, last year when the king finally drew a line in this and said, you need to move out of Royal Lodge and I'm stripping you of the titles. He's gone all the way, the whole hog. But I think there was always concern that there was going to be more to come and more to come. And, that they needed to really draw a line in the sand, which is why he did go so far at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So it's about putting as much clear blue water as they possibly can between the Andrew issue, and let's just call it an issue because it is, and the royal family. And that's why, he took him out of his house, which is Crown Estate land at Windsor. We've talked about this in the podcast before, whereas Sandringham, where Andrew will live at some point in the future, clearly not yet because he's still in Windsor, is private land. And therefore, it's just taking apart the links between the publicly funded part of the monarchy and whatever it is to do with
But for a lot of members of the public who don't see that disconnect as far as they're concerned as whether or not it's publicly funded or private, it's still land that comes under the king and the royal family. And you would argue that for a lot of members of the public, that distinction isn't enough.
I agree.
They see it as one and the same. That he's
I'm sure the public think that Windsor, Sandringham, Highgrove, Balmoral is all the same. Of course, some are private, some are public. Buckingham Palace, But
to Joe Bloggs on the street up in Yorkshire, what have you, it is one and the same.
Yeah.
And that's what's quite difficult then for the king in terms of what to do, because people don't always understand that difference, and for a lot of people, they don't care about the difference.
But then there's also having to look after a man who is still his brother, no matter what he's done, and he hasn't been convicted of anything. He hasn't been found to have done any wrongdoing in terms of the law. So therefore, the king has decided, well, here's a house that you can have on the Sandringham estate, and here's an allowance that you can have from me to buy your groceries every week.
And that allowance, to be clear, is coming from the king's private funds. That is not public
But again,
money.
on a public level, for
Still
a lot of members of the public, it's
brother,
one and the same. And when you've got us on this programme, on this podcast just last week, talking about the amazing film that the king has released regarding nature and all of that stuff. And when we were talking about it on Thursday or Friday, And hours later, that is completely off the agenda when it comes to headlines and people talking about the work of the royal family, and it is replaced with the Epstein.
You know what? There was actually some photographs, and I thought they were very nice photographs of the King supporting a local park run. If you're not from the UK, a park run is an organised run that everyone does for free. They've got one at Sandringham, near to where the King lives, or dare I say it, where Andrew also live. And the King went down there to support them. It's really, really nice photographs. And there was a source inside Buckingham Palace who kind of said, I'm sure your news desk will only focus on this royal story this weekend and nothing else. Well,
and that's the thing, because they can't control when American Congress is going to be, when the Department of Justice story is going to release these. They have no control over that.
And there's, we've got 3 million documents have been released. Well, people are going through them, but there is an awful lot to go through. So I'm sure that people haven't got all the way through them yet, and therefore, what else is to come? On not just Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, there are other names that are being talked about publicly as well.
So what could put a full stop under this? And I know that he's not testified. He's not.
And there are a lot of calls for
to testify. Would that be the thing that puts a full stop on all of this?
I mean, I can't see the fact he'll do that. I mean, go over to the US and testify in front of Congress. I mean,
I'm not being funny, but these emails, the emails aren't great.
Yeah, but also the Prime Minister's now said on a number of occasions, I think when we were in Brazil for the Earthshot Prize with William and the Prime Minister was there, he was asked about it, he said, anyone with information about Epstein should give that information, should share it willingly with those who are investigating Epstein's crimes in the US. And yet again at the weekend, I think the Prime Minister was in China, on his way back from China, he said the same thing. Prince Andrew should give whatever he knows and should testify to Congress if that's what they want. They certainly do.
Because, of course, one thing that people keep reiterating over and over is, the victims should be the focus of this when we're having a discussion about, Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. And if we're talking about anybody that has committed such awful crimes as he had, surely anybody that has any information should feel as though they are supporting victims by coming forward with any information, no matter how small, which is what we would do with anybody that's convicted of a crime and is thought to have done wrongdoing. And so when you have so many members of the royal family who are working towards victim-centred charities to help those who are involved in sexual abuse or sex trafficking or any of that stuff, one individual not saying everything they know also doesn't look good when you've got other members of that same family working on things that are very victim-focused.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, I look at all the work that Queen Camilla does on domestic violence and, domestic abuse has really helped to bring that out of the shadows. And then, they've stopped him from being a royal and they've stripped everything they can off him. But, let's remind ourselves of the Newsnight interview in 2019 when he didn't express any remorse at all for the victims. Yes, he has done subsequently, but he didn't at that time when he had the opportunity to do so.
And I will say again that Andrew has always strenuously denied any wrongdoing. And a reminder to everybody that's listening and watching that being named or pictured in the files is not an indication of wrongdoing. So
we have put these new claims, these new emails to spokespeople for both Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Sarah Ferguson. We await replies.
We await a reply. And as you said, Lizzie, it's 3 million emails.
Yeah.
So therefore, it could be a long week.
The Prince of Wales is travelling to Saudi Arabia next week at the request of the government. He's got a busy week there. So, this story continues to overshadow the work that they are doing, however much they've tried to put a stop to it.
Yeah, you can't control.
There isn't much more the King can do, though, really. I mean...
No. So we'll see if there ever is a full stop. So we'll see what happens next. But look, that's it for now. As I said, this was an extra episode because of everything that's happened. And as the guys have said, there's still more emails to come. So we will have an update for you in our normal Friday episode, which will be a brand new episode as always. But don't forget, actually, we'd love for you to subscribe to Talking Royals YouTube channel where you'll be able to get all your updates as we give them. But bye for now.